Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar I was waiting for. I'm really excited to share with you one of the most critical points of account-based marketing where so many companies are making mistakes. It's all basically about engaging strategic accounts. And today, I'm partnering with my co-founder Vladimir and Nick Bennett, who is one of my favorite ABM marketers. So we are going to share our case studies, fullfunnel.io and Alyce case studies. Nick is going to share with you his program, what worked for him when he launched pilot ABM campaign and how he engaged strategic accounts. So you'll come out with actionable insights you could implement literally tomorrow. So welcome everybody. Quick agenda. We're going to talk about 5 points. Company-centric versus client-centric marketing. Oh, sorry, that's I just see that's just a wrong agenda. But anyhow, I will give you an idea. So the LinkedIn demand gen funnel, definitely we won't be talking about demand gen funnel. This is something that we discussed with Nick 5 minutes ago. But anyhow, we'll talk about demand gen in as a part of warm-up programs. We'll talk about how to warm up specific your target accounts, and we'll share with you some practical case studies. Few words about me. I am co-founder of fullfunnel.io and also running a community called Trenches, which is we call community for B2B marketers, created by B2B marketers. I spent 15 years in B2B marketing, doing account-based marketing almost all my life. My co-founder, Vladimir, also spent 14 years in selling complex B2B marketing, selling complex B2B products. And Nick is director of field community and partner marketing at Alyce. He is running 2 podcasts, Rep Your Brand podcast and Real ABM. So you are in good hands today. And I believe we can kick off this webinar with ABM 101 principles, or basically how ABM is perceived by the majority of companies. And this is basically on this screenshot, you can see the ABM 101. So it's all about, as an example, you can see LinkedIn profile. I took LinkedIn deliberately because quite often when we speak about ABM, LinkedIn is considered as a key platform. And when it comes to advertisement, because ads are considered as a key warm-up program, right? So you are going to upload your strategic accounts or make a list in LinkedIn Sales Navigator and target them with specific ads, right? Then you have LinkedIn profiles of your SDRs, and you are going to, basically not you, but companies that are going to launch ABM, they are going then after some engagement spam all the accounts that clicked on these ads or engaged or, I don't know, downloaded the gated content, checked the website, whatever. This is how it's perceived. So ads plus outreach. Is it correct? I doubt. But my question is, if you guys have experience with ABM, does it sound familiar for you? So when it comes to ABM, or basically when you were learning about ABM, is it a kind of advice you have heard? So ABM is all about ads and outreach. Let me know in a Zoom chat. Or if you have different experience, just say, no, I have different experience. Curious to see your feedback. Or if it resonates with you, if this is something that you have seen, just type yes, indeed, this is, let's say, the perception of ABM I have. And when it comes to ABM 101, I'm just waiting for feedback. This is like a traditional warm-up, right? So we set up the ads and we try to move the accounts to sign up to webinars, to check the gated content, right? To actually to I don't know, click the landing page, etc. And this is considered as warm-up. Basically, if account sees or somebody from our strategic account see the ads, then this account is warm-up, and if they click the link, they're engaged, right? And also Jim mentions our ABM approach is outbound, but not ad-driven. Yeah, so so it's outbound, but without ads. Anyhow, this is the standard approach. And next one, the second part is activation. And activation is usually a generic outreach. Something, hey, you checked our, let's say, our mobile apps development page. I looking to develop mobile apps. This is what we can do, right? Or another one, it's, let's say, greetings from Crowinity Solutions. I'm writing this email as I happen to visit your company profile and learn we might able to sign up as B2B vendor. This is not account-based marketing. This is a very basic setup of mass outreach. These ads are obsolete. I mean, this approach obsolete by itself. It's just let's say, it's a game of numbers where you try to reach out to as many prospects as possible. And there is zero personalization, right? There is zero account research. You don't know if I have a need at all. And basically, if you'll let's say, take a look on this approach from a customer perspective, we'll see that there is zero value. And basically, this approach is doomed, right? So if you are following this ABM 101 approach, you'll be dealing with three challenges. First one is content blindness for unknown vendors. Let's say if you are not Gong in sales tech world, your ads won't be noticed. Let's say if you are not HubSpot in marketing space, your ads won't be noticed simply because your brand is not recognizable by your target audience. This, when they see your ad, they simply ignore it. We have so many stats. I also published a guide on CXL about the challenges that B2B companies are facing. We did this research with Vlad, speaking to almost 250 B2B companies that are selling high-ticket products, and they all mentioned that they are struggling because of content blindness. So the next one is targeting. And that was a great post by Chris Walker, because now I mentioned LinkedIn as a platform, right, for B2B targeting. But here is the problem with display ads, right, or text ads, that B2B buyers spend most of their time on SaaS platforms like Salesforce, Asana, HubSpot, Documents, Google Slides, Excel, social networks. Basically, social networks is one part, but again, if we'll take the proportion of the day, you could even consider yourself how much time do you spend on LinkedIn comparing to other platforms. It would be probably 95-5, right? To your internal solutions like Slack, email, etc. And that's the problem, because you can't target these people on these platforms. And basically, it's hard to create this awareness with display ads. Next one is outreach blindness. If you know Daniel Disney, he is well-known LinkedIn sales coach. He also mentioned that he analyzed 250 connection requests received on LinkedIn. And he mentioned that 80% were not personalized. No text, nothing, only just a pure pitch. And the problem is, if you can see, this post got a good engagement, and lots of people just mentioned that they hate this generic outreach. In most cases, what people do, they mark it as spam and forget about this. And for you, the question is, look, if your target connection blocks you, how are you going to, to build relationship and engage with these strategic accounts? So you could burn out your entire market, but the question is, what's next? Right? How are you going to activate these accounts? So the next slide I'm going to share with you is how we perceive ABM or ABM to zero. We have three stages of ABM. First one is basically to create engagement triggers. And this is all about connecting and engaging with the buying committee. Because when I say that people buy from people they know, like, and trust, but let's make a quick test. Do you agree, guys, that people buy from people they know, like, and trust? Put in a Zoom chat plus if you agree or minus if you disagree. Let's quickly check it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm right here. And that's why it's extremely important to connect and engage with the buying committee, with people from your strategic accounts. Next one is awareness and nurturing content. I know Nick will be talking a lot about this, but the goal is basically when you do this thought leadership, when you share this content, right? First of all, you create demand for your services because you share your expertise, right? And you make people interested in your services. They might check your profile. It's not only about LinkedIn, it's about all platforms, right? They might check your website, they might become interested in your product and start learning more. Next one, they will definitely they will definitely treat you as an expert in your field, right? And the next one, when you do, let's say, thought leadership, in most cases, you'll have much more reach, I mean organic reach, than you'll have from ads. And of course, this process could be refined with awareness and nurturing top of the funnel ads. So instead of, let's say, instead of running these generic ads promoting gated ebooks or webinars, you could promote specific pieces of content. Another idea, you could repurpose your best performing content, right, and target new accounts with it. So the next one, the goal is to create engagement triggers, because these engagement triggers allow you to start conversations. Because if you know that these accounts checked, let's say, checked your case study, let me share with you a precise example. So we recently published a case study on demand generation strategy we executed with one of the clients. And if I knew that you checked this case study and basically you checked several more on this topic, right? And then you checked, let's say, our consulting page, you spent in total 1 hour on our website, it basically proves that you have interest in it. And my goal is not connecting and pitching you, right? But my goal is connecting and learning more about your priorities. So what are your goals? Was my content helpful? Did you find all the answers, right, to your questions? And this is how you start the conversations. That's critical, because then if you know that people didn't find, or they have some other goals, you could share some additional content and basically create this demand. And at this point, you could retarget them with middle of the funnel ads, or basically promoting more case studies or sharing, depending on what solution you are selling. Of course, you could share in this middle of the funnel content. And then the buying signals, basically when you know that they pass through engagement threshold, you could do this personalized outreach. But we'll step away from, let's say, the second and the third part. Today we focus solely on the first part, on basically how to create this awareness, right, and how to engage strategic accounts before outreach. So now I'm going to share our best practices, then I will pass the mic to Vladimir and then to Nick, who is going to present Alyce case studies. So the first one is proactive thought leadership on a platform where your target audience hangs out. You might be questioning why. I could share with you a bunch of our examples, case studies of our clients, but for me, one of the best social, let's say, one of the best proofs that I have ever seen is a post by Casey Graham from Crave Payments. And he mentioned, you can see it, I don't need to read it, right? You can see that after his entire team started to post consistently on LinkedIn for 10 months, they generated 7 figures sales pipeline, right? 45% of sales calls mentioned LinkedIn. This was the first touch how these prospects heard about Crave for the first time, right? They were able to hire new people, and basically speed to hire decreased from 44 days to 14. But when it comes to ABM programs, what is the most important fact, right? Is that you create this awareness. Look, almost half of the calls came because of thought leadership content on LinkedIn. Now is a funny fact. I worked on these slides. I started to work, basically I finished these slides 2 weeks ago because then I needed to pass them to Nick. And before I send the slides, I just simply opened our CRM and downloaded all the inquiries we got before 17th of November. And you can see, so just a proof of the fact, right? So how did you hear about us? 5 of 7 told that they heard about us because of LinkedIn, and 2 more activities, summit, and also our CEO was a speaker on your summit. And these are, let's say, LinkedIn thought leadership is one part, and we always say it's not just a part of, let's say, small scope ABM program. It should become your evergreen process, but that's another story. Summit, virtual events, roundtables, this is what Nick is in charge of at Alyce. This is something that helps you to meet with your strategic accounts and basically activate them or aware them of your brand. So thought leadership benefits for ABM programs: real awareness, not fake one, not the clicks on ads, right? But the real awareness. Next one is higher acceptance and reply rate, because people have seen your content, right? And if they engaged with your content and you were not connected yet with them, you'll see in most cases, you'll see that they accept your connection request and they are going to reply back to your questions. And also it helps to establish strategic positioning, because people will be checking your profile, right? They will see your positioning, your value proposition. They might be checking your website. And these are the critical steps to basically to create this awareness. So how to drive this engagement, right? You need to have the audience. As we mentioned, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And you are going to connect with the buying committee of strategic accounts, right? The first step is personalized connections. But please forget, if you want just to grow your audience, you could use, let's say, a script. You could create a simple script and saying, hey, I saw you engaged with my post, let's connect. That's absolutely fine. But if you want to establish relationship with strategic accounts, if you want to stand out, right, I believe you should be always doing personalized. Video is optional. It could be voice message. It could be whatever you want, but it should be really personalized. So as you can see, this like example of personalized connection. Next one, diversified content strategy. I added 2 screenshots of content published by me and by Vlad. And as you can see, in most cases, I speak more about account-based marketing, while Vlad speaks more about demand generation. And this is how we actually create diversified content strategy that fulfills the content needs or informational needs of our strategic accounts, right? And moves, basically creates awareness in this space. Next one, proactive and highly personalized content distribution, something that I mentioned when I was talking about ABM 2.0, right? This is something, when you see this engagement, as I mentioned, right? Your goal is not reaching out and pitching this account saying, hey, I saw that you checked my case study. Let's, this is what I'm going to sell to you. Let's have a call, right? But this is something that I'm reaching out. Just let me share with you a precise example. I'm reaching out and saying that I noticed that your company provides this, let's say, IT security and consulting services. I recently published a case study. How did I help a custom software development company to generate 300K in sales pipeline? So that might be valuable for you. And I'm sharing a link to my LinkedIn post. And of course, you could ask a question, would you be interested to check it, right? You could get the permission. But in this case, I'm sharing a link to LinkedIn post with Stu Heineke. And the reason why, because this post had a tremendous engagement. So when they open this post, they see a bunch of comments, right? Bunch of positive feedback. And this immediately establishes this credibility, right? So these people would be eager to proceed with the conversation. Next one is value-added comments to grow visibility. In most cases, you don't even need to produce the content, right? You could simply engage with your strategic accounts, and that would be enough. You know that if we'll see the proportion of people that are leaving comments on LinkedIn content, this would be the minor part of LinkedIn users. Most people like the content, but let's say just a small number of LinkedIn users really leave meaningful comments. Yeah, quite often it's something, hey, I love it, what a fantastic post, whatever, right? Or congrats, whatever. Your goal is leaving value-added comments. Value-added is something where you add more points, where you add your expertise to the original content, right? You could ask potentially questions, because this gives you an opportunity to start conversations. That's a critical part of ABM programs. And now I'm sharing mic with Vladimir, who is going to share several more playbooks we used at Full Funnel.
All right, thank you, Andre. You want to keep the mouse and the slides?
No, I'm going to
all right,
stop screen sharing, so now you could start.
Let me do that and get this on the road. All right, so you know what Andre talked about, warming up target accounts, and I think this is one that works really well when you can do webinars like these. Are always good, and having a larger audience and creating awareness, creating demand by educating the market. But what works really well for us is also one to few. So webinars where we are really targeting a smaller but better targeted group of accounts, right? So how does it work and what are the benefits? So basically, you can personalize your content like this. We are sharing, our lessons. We are sharing some, let's say, more generic advice. But whenever you can speak to a group of people and know their challenges, you can always personalize the content and that you will be sharing to really meet their needs, which is going to obviously make it more effective. You're going to be like, every time you get a chance to talk, people can see you. You're creating that, that everybody agreed. You need people to know, like, and trust you before they're going to buy from you. And every time you get a chance to help somebody, share, educate them, you're going to earn that like and trust, and definitely they're going to get to know you. I think that, it was a long time ago now. I think more than 7 years ago, back in Belgium. I used to live in Belgium, and I did a tour around the country, and that's the only thing I did back then. Okay, so I was just like going around, and I was giving this one presentation in every major city in Belgium. And I was really like, for 5 years, I was getting like people to contact me based on this one activity. So it can be really effective. And like I said, definitely can turn into demand. So how do you do that? How do you launch that? Well, the most important thing is to find people who have your audience. A lot of the activities that we do, I mean, at the end, your buyers don't trust you. If they don't know you yet, they don't trust you. Who do they trust? Well, they trust their colleagues, they trust their peers in other companies. They maybe trust industry influencers or some niche communities, media, etc. Right? So what is the key to success is partnering up with those people, co-creating content with those people, partnering up with those people, organizing events like you see here. We are doing this together with Nick. Nick is doing this with us and with tons of other people. We'll be able to see him everywhere. He knows that this works. That's why he's doing that. And we do that a lot as well. Andre mentioned the summit where we had like more than 40 B2B marketing leaders involved. We ran, I think this year, 24 events like this, where we partner with others. So this works really well. And one of the plays is if you can find communities that are targeting your your target audience and partner up with them to organize these niche events. And the way that you do it, obviously, you will have to have built a relationship with them. So what we always advise in your engagement strategy to not only include the ICP, your target accounts, but also other people, like I mentioned, other people who are active in the market, niche media, communities, thought leaders, etc. People who your buyers already trust. So the first thing is to partner with the niche association or community. Now, this is an example where we partner with IMEC, and IMEC is an institute in Belgium who does a lot of stuff with startups and scale-ups. And we have a partnership with them where we, give these like very focused webinars. And the way that we do this is actually, we always want to personalize them, right? So for each group of people, we'll launch a little survey where we're going to ask them about their biggest challenges. We are going to really try to understand what they're struggling with and what they want to learn, right? So that we can then personalize our webinar for that group. And that's one example of how this looks like. So we were working in this case with another organization, another project called Scale Up Flanders. It's also in Belgium. That's where I have a lot of my network. And, we spoke, we surveyed the people who were attending this event. And, most of them were struggling with what they called internationalization, like going international, right? And especially that was the time that we did it, where a lot of events, in-person events were canceled. I think it was like May 2020 or something like that. So a lot of in-person events were canceled, and they were like, okay, what do? We cannot do this. We cannot go visit trade shows anymore, etc. So what do we do? And that was the biggest challenge. So that's what we made our webinar about. And of course, it resonated much more because we could personalize it. And I think that from that specific webinar, we got immediately actually a deal. We got good relationships, obviously, but even like a deal right out of the gate. Andre.
Yeah, I will just drop 5 cents because this campaign we did a year ago, right? That was one more thing that you need to keep in mind, guys. So we partnered with organization, but at the same time, we had a list of strategic accounts that were not a part of this association. And also we asked for agreement if we could, invite some of these accounts to attend this workshop. And this is how you can multiply, your activities. If you know that there is account and you did account research, that they might have this potential need, or they might be this webinar that you are going to launch would be valuable to them, right? Then you could manually invite them. And even for this webinar, I invited some of our key accounts to attend. I know that some of you are here. So that's actually an approach you could take. Always, if you see the feed, right, this is a kind of non-sales touch that you could always leverage. So keep this in mind.
All right. Thanks for that, Andre. So basically, this is an example of how this might look like. Whenever we can, we make it part of the deal that we are going to give that private webinar, but we offer also kind of like one-on-one debriefing, coaching, whatever sessions. Sometimes, the community owner or the association, the person from the association, may appreciate it, may offer that. And, obviously, when you get that opportunity, you can work on developing the opportunity, right? And that's what I mean, like sales opportunity in this case. And that works really well. And now, what is another key point for any event that you run is to create a personalized content hub. What is a content hub? A content hub is basically like we use a tool called Paperflight. There are many tools like DocSend, Paperflight. If you have like, Showpad, like there's many tools that you can use to share content that has analytics. So there's 2 points to it. So first of all, you're sharing content right after the events, you're sharing the recording, the presentation, but then in addition, you may share some case studies, You may share some, benefits, some more information about your product, some of the benefits, whatever, social proof, whatever may be relevant. And what is really cool is because, why is this important? Well, not only because you're continuing the conversation, you're giving more, you have another touch, you may be doing more education, but actually because if people come to your webinar, that's not buying intent. Like, we're not gonna, like, there is like one promise here. We are not gonna follow up with you and say, hey, you wanna have a chat with me and, I can help you grow your business or whatever. We are not gonna do that because we are aware you didn't come here to buy. You came here because you were curious, you want to learn. And this is what happens in 99% of the cases. Your buyers are not buying, but they definitely wanna learn, and they wanna maybe meet up with other people and learn. And so what this kind of a content hub is really helpful is to show people where there may be more intent, where people might be interested in learning more. So to give you like a concrete example of how this might work is with our client, we set up a big summit, like similar to what Andre described we did this year. We had like a lot of people come there. There were a lot of sessions. There were like more than 2,000 people appearing there. 400 of them were actually qualified, like matched the ICP. And what we did then is we ran an activation webinar for them and then shared the content hub. And what this allowed us to do is checking the analytics of what kind of content people were consuming, how long, exactly like what were they interested in. We could then use that to do first of all, to see who is more engaged and more interested, to maybe infer some intent from there, but also to run very timely and personalized follow-up based on the analytics. Let me give you an example. Like, imagine like somebody has checked our case studies and there was like a page about, or a slide about campaign orchestration, and, they spend the most time checking that one out. And I might reach out to them and I might say, hey, I shared this case study with you, just like wanted to hear your feedback. A lot of people ask me about campaign orchestration. If this is something that interests you, be happy to, tell you about how we did it for XYZ, right? Which, like, you see how this works. Like, it's timely, it's relevant. It's not just like a follow-up out of the blue. And of course, I'm not saying, hey, I saw you in our analytics and you were doing that, and I'm the creepy guy who is spying on you and going after you. But my point being, going back to my story, so from the 400 people we invited to the activation webinar, we shared the content hub with all these like materials. And so the sales team could check that out and could do the follow-up based on that, and actually generated 34 opportunities and closed 5 deals right after that activation webinar. So this can really work well. Yeah, definitely one thing that we always say, never stop nurturing. People are not ready, like I said, like, this, I'm sure 99, well, the 97 they say, or 99, I don't care. A lot of people, majority of people are not buying right now, but you also don't want them to forget about you. You want to be on the radar. So when they are ready to buy, they will be thinking of you. As you can see, this was like actually a response after, what was it? How long was it? I think it was more than a year that he was following. 8 months. 8 months following the newsletter. The time was right. And this is actually not an exception, right? But of course, this wouldn't have happened hadn't there been for the weekly newsletter. And obviously, that's not the only, all the other activities. So never stop nurturing would be the lesson here. So let's see. What is another play that I absolutely love? And you see that we have our podcast. Nick has actually 2 podcasts. And if you ask me, like, before what I thought about podcasts, other than listening and finding them interesting, I would always think, like, with a podcast, the main goal is to, like Gary Vee or somebody, like, have a big audience, have a lot of people, downloads, a lot of downloads. That's important, right? But what I realized after doing the podcast is that it's an amazing tool to build relationships with the most important people in your industry. And I'm talking about, your buyers, which are obviously like really important, most important people for you, right? But also industry influencers and other people who your buyers trust. Remember, buyers trust their peers, their colleagues, they trust the industry influencers. If they don't know your brand, they don't trust you, right? So and it's just amazing at the level of relationship that you can build. In October, I was talking to Andre and I had this idea, okay, I really wanted to just build my network with top companies, with top B2B tech companies. I was doing it again in Belgium, and I reached out to the top to just like really like the Barcodes and Material, like big companies there, and reached out to marketers. And I built a list, like I built like a really like precise list of 20 accounts and people in there. And I had to stop reaching out after 11 because 8 of them agreed to a podcast, to an interview, and I just couldn't handle. I didn't have the time to do more. And again, it's just amazing the level of relationship that you can build with people using the podcast. So how does it work? Well, to get to this kind of response rate or acceptance rate in this case, it's important to build trust and to warm up. Like Andre was talking about that, I wasn't like reaching out to people just randomly. I was, whenever it was possible, I was asking for a referral, or I was, personalizing obviously every time that I was reaching out. But I was also using this kind of, again, a content hub. And so in this case, it wasn't so much about analytics. It was about just like, showing that, this is not a bait and switch. This is a real thing. This is a real podcast. You will be in good company. Come here, check out the kind of people that we work with. But also, it was because I clearly explain, what is the process? What can you expect? Who are we? Why are we doing that? So that people wouldn't like that you would basically overcome maybe any objections that you have. And before you say, hey, but I don't have all these people on my podcast. Actually, the exact same approach worked with our client who just started the podcast. He actually didn't even publish the podcast, and it was like in a weird niche. He would never say, people will say yes. It was in a construction niche, right? Where you would think like people would not join. But the way that they did it and overcame that is by first talking with what we call the friendlies. Right? So the people who are maybe customers or their connections, etc., which help them, of course, create that initial social proof. And I see Andre is eager to share something.
Yeah, and I just want to drop 5 cents because sometimes people think, yeah, but this might not be that important. I would argue and say this is critical for 2 reasons. The first one is that showcases your professionalism, right? Even if you don't have podcast, you could create this, let's say, small content hub explaining the process, the topics you are going to talk about, the distribution process, right? Where you are going to publish this podcast, how are you going to leverage this? If you're going to produce small video clips, you could also mention this. The first one is about the trust and the credibility, and the second one, if you guys are going to prospect enterprise accounts, if you are going up market, just believe me, I spent 8 years in enterprise world. This pitch deck would be addressed to marketing or PR team. And if they won't see this content hub, the chances that CEO, CFO, whatever from C-suite will join your podcast are miserable. So that's really important, especially if you are going up market.
That's, what I mentioned, like the example of our client, actually, he didn't have the podcast yet. He didn't have all these people he could feature, but just showing that professionalism, who they are, what the process, like, what you're doing, it's a real thing. But also, like, one of the objections that he got at the beginning was, well, I'm not sure about my communication department. Will they allow me to do it or not? So basically, we added the frequently asked questions from the communication department, and that really helped. That really helped to tip over and get people to say yes. So this is what you need to do. You need to build trust. So this is how you're going to get better response rates than just sending a quick message. And then also, I really like to use a multi-channel outreach. And what I mean by that is that if you're maybe inviting somebody via LinkedIn and they don't come back to you, that doesn't mean that they're not interested. It can mean that they just at that moment, they're out on having lunch or whatever. It pops up, like the notification pops up of on their mobile phone. They maybe see it. Oh, okay, what is that? They click on it. They read them. Oh, I can't say now. I can't respond now. Let me look at it later. And we all know what happens. Like LinkedIn marks that as read. It disappears in your LinkedIn inbox, and then never see it again. So, and also, just like keep sending the messages to people using the same platform is very annoying. People are just, and they see the whole history and they're like, oh yeah, here he is, or here she is again, right? So it feels different and it works much better. That's also our experience whenever you can mix up the channels, including like I may like start with a LinkedIn comment. Maybe you start a conversational LinkedIn comment. You may move that to private messages. Maybe you will follow up on email. And very often I get a response. It's like, oh yeah, I saw your message. I just didn't get to it. So thanks for following up, right? And they get back to me. If you have a WhatsApp, that's another channel. So whatever you can use. Also, like I sometimes also mix up not just the channels, but also the media. So instead of just saying, sending the text message, I may record a little video. This was me doing a walk do my daily walks on our beach here. And I just use that time sometimes to record these little messages and send them over, and it works really well. So what else is here? So yeah, so I think this is something that is really important and people don't realize that, but it's not just about building a relationship with the right people in the industry. It's not just building a relationship with your buyers. It's actually having that conversation allows you to gain really key insights into what's going on in that company, in that account. Basically, we talk about in ABM, we talk about account research, and you can do a lot of research using, third-party data. You can like look at on their LinkedIn, on their website, in their, media, what's happening. But actually, probably the best way to do account research is to talk to the buyers. And, having a podcast interview and conversations, because on the podcast, you may also like do a pre-production call where you may basically discuss what you will be talking about. And you can get a lot of information about what they're struggling with, what their challenges are, what their key initiatives are, maybe like what they're doing today to deal with the problem that you normally can help them solve, etc. So you can really basically qualify whether there is a need on the one hand. And secondly, also, instead of then afterwards reaching out using some sort of a generic pitch, you can refer to things that you've learned, right? So your pitch is your pitch or your proposal, your follow-up is not anymore a generic one, but it's actually personalized to, okay, you mentioned this during our chat, you mentioned that you're struggling with A, and I've been brainstorming with Andre and have a couple of ideas of how you could deal with that. Or we just did a project with another client, and this is the outcome. And they deal, and I'm happy to tell you how they dealt with the problem. They got these results, whatever, right? But it gives you this like critical insights, right? So you can really collect good insights there. And yeah, I mean, actually as well, what happens is that you're actually co-creating content with your buyers and co-creating a podcast. It doesn't have to be a podcast. We also do, whenever I will write an article, I will reach out to buyers and influencers and get their quotes, maybe do a quick interview, get that. So it's not just the podcast that you can use it for, but you will then create better content that is actually co-created with your buyers. It's unique, and it's at the same time obviously building that relationship and learning about target accounts. So That's all from me. Thank you very much. And now the moment you've been all waiting for. Nick, you want to take it over?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it's I don't have anything nearly like you guys. I feel like you guys did so well, and I'm just kind of like here. Also, you need to check your notifications on LinkedIn. You have a lot of them. But yeah, do you want me to share? Do you want to share?
As you wish, man. You want to share?
Yeah, I'll share. That's fine.
Okay, go for it.
All right. We're good. We can see this.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All righty. So I kind of want to talk about a little bit about launching ABM kind of version 1. So I started with Alyce back in February of 2021, and I was brought in to specifically create an ABM program from scratch. There was nothing in place. The whole account-based model was something that the company actually never really focused on up until about a quarter before that. And so kind of very quickly put some things together, worked with our RevOps team. They say 50% of any good ABM strategy is focusing on the list piece of it and getting that list right, whether it's 20 accounts, 50 accounts, 300 accounts, whatever it is, you can't do it in silos. And I think that's the important piece. And so working with sales leadership, working with our RevOps counterparts to collectively come together and say, all right, these are the 45 accounts that we want to focus on. And so for us, the way that we determined what these 45 accounts were was we use 6 cents from an intent perspective. So that drives a lot of what we do. So later stage, based on in-market stage from 6 cents, decision of purchase, they had to kind of fall into that. They had to have a certain intent score. They had to kind of allow our land and expand model. We're very much a tool and product that someone will purchase us throughout, ROI and kind of usage. You're starting to see other departments start to use us. So take example, 6 cents is a great customer. We just released a case study with them. They've seen a 537% increase using us. Initially, it was a 1-team rollout. We now have 4 teams across, sales, marketing, CS, that is using us for their customers and prospects. And so they're still seeing incredible results. So the list is the important piece. So let's talk about that. So 45 accounts to start. We developed our list. It was fantastic. We had a bunch of strategy and tactics in place and channels that we were going to develop and how to go after them. It was very much a one-to-one strategy and maybe a little bit of a one-to-few, but we really wanted, the goal was to open pipeline, create net new pipeline with them. And so we did. We opened pipeline with 26 out of the 45 accounts in 1.5 quarters, about $500,000 in pipeline in a quarter and a half. Sounds amazing. Sounds really great. Most of this was mid-market. A decent amount was enterprise. As we were moving up market, we were starting to create kind of a new motion there. We increased engagement based on 6 cents buying stage with all 45 of them, which is fantastic. You want to create engagement with these accounts. We did. We increased the stage that they were for all 45 of these and increased the intent score from them as well. The issue was that there was no deal acceleration tactics in place. I was so focused on the creation of pipeline that we didn't have the definition of how do you treat these accounts. It was honestly mostly on me. Enablement of the sales team, because we also don't have an enablement department, that kind of fell on me. How do we take these deals that we've opened with these strategic accounts and focusing on moving them down the funnel, which is why I think having an ABM strategy that is full funnel is so important. And that was the big piece that I missed. We were opening them. It looked really good, but we weren't doing anything with it. Yeah, we closed a few of these deals, which is great, but we could have closed so much more if we had a strategy in place that encompassed the full funnel that we really wanted to focus on. So let's talk about LinkedIn conversational ads. So for me, we're in the MarTech industry. I am the ICP of a product like Alyce. I have bought competitive software before. I've purchased Alyce before at a previous company. I've seen demos of every platform out there. And so it's a little bit easier for me. I'm basically marketing to people like me. I know what my pain points are. So I know what a lot of other pain points are. And so I said, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take our tier 1 accounts and I'm going to create a LinkedIn conversational ad. And I'm going to make it come from me. And so basically what I'm doing, super simple, as you can see, take a 30-minute meeting with me and I'll give you a $100 gift. So they get to experience, one, they're bypassing the BDR. I am acting as the BDR in this use case. It's marketer to marketer, building trust, just kind of brainstorming together, whether it's the right product for them or not, we'll talk about it. But I am kind of acting as the BDR in this use case. Plus the gift for spending 30 minutes with me, we get them to experience the platform. When someone uses a platform like Alyce, they can see the benefits of it. And so we want to get as many people, specifically from our strategic and target accounts, using the platform, because they'll be like, wow, that was seamless. Wow, I didn't know you had all these features built into it. Wow, I didn't know that I could create a CTA post gift that could drive people to a webinar page. And so getting people to use that piece of it was incredibly impactful. So I launched this. I ran it for about 3 weeks. And so in 3 weeks, I drove 29 meetings within our tier 1 accounts. I spent probably just under $5,000 all in on this campaign, which isn't that bad. And I drove, I think it was about $250,000 in pipeline in about three and a half weeks. And the beauty of LinkedIn conversational ads, I've ended this specific campaign, but the beauty is you could, a year from now, I could still get accounts that are then seeing this or acting on it because these ads won't go away. So I will always benefit from it in the long run, even knowing I'm not paying into the ad specifically. That's the beauty of LinkedIn conversational ads. The issue is I've been telling so many people about it that more people are going to start to use it, which means that it's, marketers are going to ruin everything. And the reach of these combo ads and the cost is going to get, driven up. But super impactful. It's basically, when people click this I'm in button, let's do this, I then took them to one more conversational flow that was around qualifying them. Hey, if you're just looking to send seasonal gifts, we're not the right company. But if you're looking to make it as part of your pipeline strategy, then let's talk. Again, so it got rid of the people that probably weren't going to be a great fit. If people wanted to learn more first, it kind of took them down another path that was focusing on case studies that was relevant to the target accounts that I was sending this to. So for example, one of our customers, ASG Technologies, the field marketers is who I was sending this to, and ABM marketers. And so relating a case study to what they do in their everyday lives and the impact and ROI that was driven from it was really, really good. And I could see all the results. I could see what everyone was clicking. I could see on a daily kind of, list what was coming from it. It was huge. So definitely recommend the conversational ads for breaking in. Another piece that I want to talk about is dark social. I know Chris Walker talks about this often, the whole Refine Labs team, more and more people are starting to talk about it. In 8 months, when I did this, it's actually probably closer to like 9 months now. So let's just say in 9 months, I've driven at least 30 opportunities from deals that I know because the prospect told me. And this is just from me posting on LinkedIn, like Andre and Vlad said, like, me posting content, I have nothing to sell at the end of the day. I would say 90% of the content that I put on LinkedIn is basically just stuff that I find interesting and want to talk about. If I can help one person a day, then great. However, so many people will DM me and be like, hey, I love your content. By the way, I'm with a competitor of yours. Our renewal's up. I'm starting to explore other platforms. I knew nothing about you, but now that I see your name everywhere, I'd love to see a demo. And 30 opportunities in that time frame it's crazy to me. Now, that's just from like what I know. there's countless others because of that whole dark social aspect. They see, on LinkedIn, they just come inbound for whatever reason. And recently, I would say maybe about 2 weeks ago or so, we changed our demo form to allow prospects to write in where they heard about us. So don't put them in a box saying like, okay, here's a drop down list of like, podcast, social, wherever. Like, let them tell you where they found you. And so I've seen a bunch of these come in recently where it's an inbound demo request. And in this bottom corner here, how did you hear about us? LinkedIn, Nick Bennett. Now, if that isn't social proof, then I don't know what is. And so I'm starting to see more and more, just from changing this form. And I know Chris Walker talks about this a lot, is like, don't box people in, but like we're getting so much incredible information. And it goes to show it's funny because like I talked to my CEO and I'm just like, hey, a lot of what I do, you can't directly measure it to a number, and attribution is a whole nother thing. But like this right here is why I do what I do. And I guarantee you the amount of opportunities that I can drive from posting and building a brand on LinkedIn and other social platforms is going to be huge with our target accounts. And like I said, it's a little bit easier for me because I'm in MarTech and I am the ICP and I'm connected to so many other field marketers, ABM marketers, and demand gen people that I talk to them every day anyways. But that's basically all I have. I don't think I have any other slides. Like I said, sorry, I'm not as fancy or as many slides, but hope you found value in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience. Guys, it's time for Q&A. So as always, if you would like to jump in and ask your question live, just switch on your camera and go ahead. Or if you are not comfortable with asking questions live, feel free to type your questions in the Zoom chat and we are going to cover them. Stefan, go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks. Hi, Nick. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
It's evening here in Europe, so it's like getting dark very soon. Yeah, it's like like werewolves, like ooh. Listen, I saw your presentation. Amazing, man. I was wondering, did you use any direct mail, and like what type of direct mail? How did you personalize it? If you could tell me more about that, that would be great. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's something where we've really focused. We just announced a new partnership with Staples recently. And so that allows us to have the full capabilities of working with Staples to do co-branded, direct mail, do different types of boxes, kitting, things like that. But the beauty of what our platform does is we actually use AI and human-driven research to go out and find every interesting piece that's, about you, as long as it's a public social profile. And if it's a public social profile that shows that, then great, we can come back. And so I can actually build these direct mail boxes for our target accounts that are personalized to them. Because I know what they're interested in, whether it's sports or cooking, or maybe you like to have a few drinks, like fine, like I can create something that's relevant on a one-to-one basis. And so that's what I've been able to do. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's easier when you're doing it for a small subset of accounts. And that's kind of what we do. And that's what we're going to be doubling down on in 2022.
Guys, feel free to switch on your camera and ask your question, or again, type it in a Zoom chat and we are going to cover it. While probably you are typing, I have a quick question to you, Nick. So you shared these conversational ads on LinkedIn, right? I'm thinking about the thought leadership, that part that we have covered today, right? From your point of view, as you are active on LinkedIn probably for even more than 1 year, right? How did it impact the results of conversational ads? So basically, if you were not active on LinkedIn, do you think you'd have you'd have worse results from that campaign?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, I think a lot of the success I had was because people see a lot of the content that I put out there, and they're, like I said, I'm connected with a lot of like other field marketers, ABM marketers, and so like I don't try to sell anything in any of the posts that I have. I just try to deliver value, and that's what I've focused on. And I think when people connect, I think people undervalue what even commenting on other people's stuff can do for you, because it's going to drive people back to your profile. You're going to see who you work for. Andre, full funnel, great. Okay. Oh, by the way, I keep on seeing this guy, Andre, like he puts this really good content out there. You know what? I do have a need for him. I'm going to reach out to Andre before I reach out to anyone else because he's top of mind. And I think that's what has attributed to a lot of the success for sure.
Hey, Nick, there is another question. I think it's interesting from Tim. He says that their ICP is regulated, cannot accept $100 gifts.
Yep.
Any other ideas for, incentives to join the conversation?
Yeah, so something that I've also started to like dabble in a little bit with the conversational ads piece is like for our platform, we have a lot of companies that also can't take gifts. And so we have a donation value. So you can actually donate to a charity of your choice. So instead of saying it's $100 gift, like, all right, hey, spend 30 minutes with me, and you can donate $100 to the charity of your choice, basically any 503c. And even if they're not on our platform, you can actually write in who you want to donate to, and we'll make that donation on your behalf. And on top of that, we actually match the donations. And so I think in the last like year and a half or 2 years, like we've donated an additional $300,000 to charities from what people have donated.
Stefan, did you want to jump in?
I have a question, Nick.
Let's go ahead. Please go ahead.
Ashley.
Hi. How are you tracking like your engagement? Because I'm playing around with this idea of boosting like our CMO's posts, or having like our executives that are the ones that are these thought leaderships, and trying to figure out a way to do that. But I don't know how to do that. So have you tried that? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah. So you can. It depends like what you want to get out of it. Here, like I'll show my screen. So I use Shield for everything that I do. And so basically what this allows me to do is, if I want to see specific content, different types of content that I think will kind of do well, I can actually create custom labels if I want to focus on like days of the week. But I can kind of go back and say, all right, this year, 3.5 million people have seen the content, 3.5 million views on the content that I've kind of put out there. And then you can kind of track all these things over time, and I can kind of go down and see specifically what's working and what's not working. So like, for example, I tried something last night, that I like shared the LinkedIn live event for this webinar. And I don't know what happened, but like no one saw it. 66 people saw it, which is way lower than like what I typically get. And so like, I've just been like playing around with like different types of things. Like obviously polls have seen a ton of engagement lately. So like I'm getting like between 130,000 to 200,000 views on like my polls. But most of my content, like if it's about like field marketing, ABM, it's weird. It doesn't take off as much as like when I talk about like personal branding or like just like personal stories. And so I've just been like trying to like play around with different things, see what works, see what doesn't work. But I use Shield for all of my kind of analytical pieces for like the LinkedIn. And then I really look at like this earned media value of being able to say, hey, if I was going to invest at $8 CPM based on like what typically would be like the cost per mile, I could say like I would spend like $28,000 to get like the reach that I did when I'm technically getting it for free. So it goes to kind of further amplify or could evangelize for like why people should be building their brands or boosting other brands.
Okay.
I don't know if that helps.
It does. I'm also at the stage you're at in your version 1, but like I wanted to ask you how long your deal cycle is and why you feel like it's over and you can't continue the deal acceleration.
Yeah, so a few things. So like our deals are typically if it's a mid-market, it's usually about a month to 2 months deal cycle. If it's like an enterprise deal, it's usually about 2 to 3 months. I mean, we're not a technical product, so like the buying committees aren't that big. It's really just in even our ACV is only like, it's probably about like 40K. So it's obviously as you move up market, it's a little bit bigger, but it's not like that hard of a product to sell. The issue is we had so much, I don't want to say like turnover, but we had so many changes and a lot of salespeople left, new salespeople were coming on board. So they were ramping. So like the whole, what defines like a tier 1 account, I think kind of got lost. And then like we had some change on the marketing team as well. And so priorities kind of shifted. But in January, we are relaunching a brand new program for account-based marketing that we're working on right now. We're almost in the final stages of ironing it out.
Cool.
Thank you. Stefan, did you want to share something, right?
No, I just wanted to comment that I've used the donation tactic. It's actually amazing. I used the donation tactic with cold emailing, Lemlist. We used Lemlist. We used personalized pictures, and we sent it like to people saying, okay, so if you comment this, you will donate $10 to the future of trees. And then we did that. A lot of people commented, and it worked really well. We use it for backlinks, like backlinks, links, SEO kind of stuff. But I believe it might work for B2B. And another case, I just popped up into my mind. If you guys know Guillaume Caban, he used to be a CMO for like, I think Drift, or I don't remember. He said that he a while ago he presented a solution where you could go basically to a website and it would let you like choose the gift like for yourself. Like if they didn't know the address, you would choose the gift and then you would get delivered to you. I don't know. Does it ring a bell, Nick?
Yeah. And that's kind of like our whole focus. So like recipient first, like we're not gonna ask you for like your address up front. So what we'll do is like we'll send a digital link of like, hey, we have a gift for you. If you want to accept it, that's on you. And then you'll put your address into the back end and then it will ship it out. But it's all up to the recipient on how they handle, if they want to accept, exchange, donate, or just like look at it and like not do anything. But we use it a lot because you can actually require a meeting being booked as well. So part of accepting the gift is you have to book a meeting on the BDR or my calendar. Like if I send something out, I can click it, or you could ask even like survey questions. You were like, hey, what did you think of this process? Or what did you just think of this webinar? So you get a ton of like qualitative type things as well.
Jim, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good presentation, guys. Hey, Nick.
Hey.
Got a two-part question. One part of it you might not be able to answer. So the first one is, when you're talking about the conversation ads on LinkedIn, what's the shelf life of those ads? I know that you purchase a period of time and, I guess it goes out for a number of weeks, but then do they all disappear? Like walk me through how that works.
Yeah. So the beauty is, so you can bid on what you want to like put out there to get in people's inboxes, because only one sponsored message can get in someone's inbox for every 30 days. So if you didn't make that 30 days, because I'm starting to see more and more of them where I'll get one, but no one else could send me one for another 30 days. But that company like I got one yesterday, first time I've got one in a while, actually. And so you can set the bidding just like, any other type of thing to say, all right, I want to spend $20 per send to get into someone's inbox. I was reading, someone actually said they set it to $100 because even though when you're setting it at $100, the actual like what they're charging was a lot less. I set mine at $1.50, and I didn't have any issue. But I'm also using 6 cents and segmenting the list down and then syncing those over to LinkedIn, so I can get really targeted into who I want to send those to based on stages. But I don't think there's if it gets into someone's inbox and they don't reply, it's going to always stay there. And so they might not reply today, but they might see it again in 4 or 5 months and decide to reply. But I don't know if there's a shelf life that it goes away after like a year or something. Like someone else mentioned that they're still getting opportunities coming in like 7 months later from something that they sent, and they're not spending any more money on it.
Okay. That gives me something to go look at. The other part, I think I know the answer, but I'm curious to get your take. You're on the product side. My company is on the services side. So if we're using the sponsored messaging approach, I should expect probably similar results in terms of just getting scheduling, right? Like there isn't anything I should be really thinking about if I use that as a way to drive meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. The whole idea, like why I took this approach, was because I saw metadata taking a similar approach. And so metadata drove a ton of pipeline from it. I was just like, I actually took a demo with them for $100 gift card. And with them, it was taking a meeting with the BDR. I kind of swapped it out and said, all right, instead of like passing the BDR, just take it with me. But like, I mean, in theory, it's a pretty easy approach that I think anyone could really benefit from, as long as your audience is on LinkedIn and as long as the targeting that you're doing is good. I mean, if you use LinkedIn Campaign Manager and you just target based on like what they have, I mean, it'll be all right. But if you use like a metadata or like 6 cents to like sync over like specific segments, then you can get really granular. Also cut your spend way down.
All right, cool. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah.
So there was a question from Yusuf. Yusuf, do you want to come online? You were asking about how we use content hubs after events and whether you could kind of integrate that into your blog. And I think actually we use our content hub as well at our LinkedIn profile, at our website. It's actually a great way to share some of the middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content, and dive people deeper in the conversation. And I think I see no reason why I shouldn't be able to also leverage that, in blog posts.
I would give you one practical idea. So after this webinar, I was not going to create a content hub, but for you guys to have a real experience. As Vlad told, we are not going to follow up, definitely no. But I will create a content hub for you. So you'll see how it works. You'll see how it's structured. It will give you pretty good insights, what should be inside. My 5 cents on this is that content hub could be used as, let's say, middle of the funnel or bottom of the funnel activity. Let's say we have our service page and we have growth sprints that we are launching with B2B tech companies. Could be ABM sprint, could be demand gen sprint, could be sales enablement sprint. And it's really hard to describe each of the sprints, right? And put all of the case studies, because if we did it, our service page would be like this, which makes no sense. So in this case, we just add a link to, if you'd like to learn more about growth sprints and check the case studies, check this content hub. It's not gated, so you could just simply go and check it, and that's it. So that's a nice kind of, let's say, engagement that you could add. And as well, it's a fantastic opportunity to nurture more accounts, right? You host the event, you could do any kind of activity, and then it could be like what Nick is doing, round tables, whatever, Chili Piper guys are doing these micro events. This is kind of activities that you could do as a natural next step. You send this content hub with dedicated material. You're not going to send a link saying, hey, this is my YouTube channel, right? Or this is my blog, go and check it. You just create a hub with materials you want these prospects to consume. This is critical, right? So you are directing them to relevant pieces of content. That's crucial. So this is how you should leverage it. There is one more question from Elon. Elon, would you like to jump in? If you have an opportunity, just switch on your camera or unmute yourself.
So I'm in a bad area, so I'll avoid the camera if you don't mind. Yeah, so it was a question to Nick. Every person who has a LinkedIn premium account, i.e. they're golden, they have the golden LinkedIn badge, you can send them DMs directly with emails with no limitation. I have that. I'm getting many messages every day from people who are not connected to me. Now, with such users, with such target audience, do you see any value in targeting them using paid ads or just telemarketing or sales to use regular DMs?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think you definitely need a mix of both. Like I'm running a bunch of paid ads right now. One, I'm running around the case study that we just did with 6 Sense, for example. And so, I mean, I kind of kept it kind of funny. I basically was like, people love social proof. So here you go. And like linked to an ungated version of the case study. And so I launched this yesterday, and I put it to all of the decision and purchase stage contacts that are a named or top 20 account for us. And so I've already seen a click-through rate about, 0.93%, which is pretty good for basically just like that. And like we've already seen a ton of traffic to this webpage, but I'm not running like sometimes like our sales team, part of their outreach plan is they actually use Vidyard, and we will record videos that we'll send into regular just DMs. Like they all have sales navigation licenses and they just send DMs to prospects. But I use Vidyard and I'll send a lot of videos to people that I'm connected to, even if I never talked to them before, versus like paying to like run to send something to them.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we spent almost half an hour together. Thanks a lot, guys, for great questions. If you have anything else to ask, let's do it right now. If you have asked all the questions, I would love to ask you one question. How did you like this webinar? Was it valuable? Did you get some insights? Please share your feedback in a Zoom chat. Ashley, did you want to ask something?
No, I'm just not on mute.
Ah, okay. Cool.
You guys did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for your feedback. Appreciate it. Again, I dropped a link to our Trenches community. Nick is also a member of Trenches. So if you are not a member, join us as we are hosting these events almost every week. And we also I would love to share with you the behind of scenes. We scheduled with Nick several more webinars. We probably were going to host them in January and February on demand generation, on the importance of personal brand in your ABM program. So stay tuned. We'll announce it soon. Thanks again for your time, for your engagement, and for your feedback. Appreciate it. And if you guys can join us on Thursday, please check my mail. We are going to chat with Rand Fishkin from SparkToro. That would be a masterpiece on doing PR right way. Stay tuned. Cheers.
Thank you.